The morning they bulldozed my great-grandfather's bridge, I didn't just feel anger, I felt resolve. No more playing by their rules. No more polite letters, waiting for hearings, or trusting a corrupt homeowners association to respect what wasn't theirs. That bridge wasn't just a passage of stone and timber. It was a testament to my family's history, when they destroyed it without so much as a notice. I made a decision no one could have predicted Dye was going to drain the very lake there. Multi-million-dollar lakeside resort relied on to survive. It was a foggy Tuesday morning, the kind that clings to the water and makes the lake feel ancient and untouched. I stood on the dock with my coffee in hand, the stillness broken only by the distant call of loons and the gentle groan of wood underfoot. That's when I heard it, the low, thundering growl of diesel engines. At first I thought it was logging, trucks, but when I looked through the mist, I saw it, a yellow bulldozer crawling toward the historic bridge like a beast with steel claws. 2 more trucks followed, along with men in reflective vests and hard hats. Their radios crackling, I dropped my mug and ran. I shouted at them to stop. I waved my arms. But none of it mattered. They had a piece of paper, stamped and notarized. And they had her Barbara Langston, HOA president, self-proclaimed queen of Oak Ridge Shore Estates. She stood there in white heels, arms crossed like she was inspecting a parking violation. That smug grin never leaving her lips. "You can't do this." I shouted. "We already did," she said, turning away without a blink. Barbara Langston wasn't a native. She moved here from Scottsdale and bought a waterfront mansion. 6 months later, she bulldozed her way to the top of the HOA using obscure rules and weaponized bureaucracy. She was the kind of woman who'd report kids for sidewalk chalk and fine, families for having holiday lights up past New Year's. But what Barbara didn't know, and what none of her board cronies understood, was that the bridge they just annihilated wasn't simply decorative or outdated. It was registered historic, protected, built in 1924 by my great-grandfather Walter Dean. Crafted from hand-cut limestone, that bridge sat above a secondary spillway designed as part of the original water flow system Walter engineered, long before Oak Ridge Shores even existed, before there were fancy condos and jet skis. There was our family's cabin and that bridge, and sealed in a fireproof box in my attic were the original documents to prove it. Deed records, hand-drawn blueprints. A water rights agreement signed by the county in 1923, giving Walter Dean and his heirs perpetual control over the lake's water level. Yes, read that right. The HOA may have thought they owned the lake or controlled it through sheer arrogance, but the spillway, the bypass valves, the original drainage system were legally mine to manage. After what they did to my family's bridge, I wasn't going to keep quiet. I spent 2 days in seething. Silence, buried in documents, phone calls, and legal texts. I contacted my old professor from Texas A&M, expert in historical civil engineering, sent scans to my cousin's wife at the state's water authority. I hired a surveyor to map the system. And guess what? That old spillway hadn't been touched in 5 decades. But it was still fully functionally and 100% under my legal jurisdiction. Meanwhile, Barbara declared war. She started with petty fines, claimed my mailbox was a non-regulation color, wrote me up for having a fishing net on my dock, said my tool shed was an eyesore. Then came the real intimidation: private security contractors prowling my fence line, men with mirrored sunglasses taking photos of my gutters, my lawn, my dog, her brother-in-law's company, of course. I documented everything. Every letter, every unlicensed visit. I filed official complaints. Requested the HOA's public financial records. What I found in those documents? Fraud, nepotism, corruption, in plain sight. Your thousands of dollars paid out to companies owned by Barbara's family members. $8,000 to Langston Consulting. $5,500 to Norwood Maintenance Solutions, zoned by her nephew. It was a tangled web, and I was getting ready to tear it down. Then came the final card. The resort Barbara loved to flaunt. Built on the far end of the lake, it was funded by a $4 million commercial loan, and I got a copy of their environmental compliance paperwork. Buried in it was a critical clause. If the lake dropped more than 18 inches below full pool for longer than 72 hours, the bank could call in the loan. That clause was my dynamite. At the next HOA board meeting, I didn't argue. I walked in with a banker's box of evidence. Deed, records. The water rights agreement, blueprints of the spillway, financial records with red flags, photos, not receipts. I'm not here to debate, I said. I'm here to give you a choice. Barbara laughed. You're bluffing. No, I said. I'm draining the lake. She turned crimson. That's terrorism. It's maintenance, I replied. They voted to reject my claims. One board member abstained. The rest followed Barbara like sheep. So that night, under the stars, I walked to the old spillway, unlocked the access panel, and turned the rusted valve 3 times. The water started moving. Within 6 hours, the lake had dropped 11 inches. By the next afternoon, the resort's boat docks were sitting on mud. Tourists posted angry pictures online. Dead fish, exposed lake bed, stranded kayaks. Day 3, the bank pulled its funding. Just like that. Panic set in. Barbara called an emergency meeting. Half the homeowners demanded her resignation. The rest accused me of eco-terrorism when the sheriff showed up, claiming they'd received an anonymous tip that I was tampering with public property. I handed him the documents. My great-grandfather built the system. I operate it legally. He read it twice. This is above my pay grade, he muttered. Barbara doubled down. Went on local news. Called me a threat to the community. Said I was destroying children's futures and sinking property values. But every time she spoke, the public dug deeper. Turns out her husband's company received $30,000 in shady payments. Her cousin had no-bid contracts. And she herself had a guest house built 4 feet into a protected wetlands area. Violations everywhere. 2 weeks later, the county issued a restraining order against her misuse of funds, abuse of authority, code violations. The HOA board held an emergency vote. Barbara Langston was removed. She left Oak Ridge Shores the very next morning. The new HOA president, Mrs. Nora Caldwell, 82 years old, lived in the area since 1967. She knocked on my door with a tin of cookies and a request. Help us fix this. Write new bylaws that honor history. We rebuilt the bridge, stronger this time. We named it Walters Crossing. The county certified it as a historical site. 3 months later, the resort reopened under new ownership. This time they negotiated directly with me. I agreed to maintain steady water levels. In exchange, they granted preservation easements for all heritage structures around the lake. We even set up a scholarship in Walter. Dean's name for civil engineering students, focusing on sustainable water management now. Every July, we celebrate Bridge Day. There's live music, catfish fry, kids diving off the dock, the same dock Barbara once fined me for. Sometimes I just stand there, and on the limestone rail, feeling the calm strength of the water below, because water doesn't care about power. Games, it follows truth. It follows gravity. It follows design. It remembers the hands that shaped it. So if someone tries to erase your history, don't scream, don't beg, learn the system, know your rights. And if they push too hard, let the water speak for you. Tell me in the comments. What would you do if someone bulldozed your family's legacy? And stay tuned, because next week I'll tell you how one rancher used underground mineral rights to stop a tech billionaire from paving over sacred land. You don't want to miss it?